Well, some very disturbing news is being reported about a Catholic nun. News reports came out just a few days ago that a nun was stabbed, and there were questions as to the motive of the attacker. She was sent to the hospital. And, there have been some interesting updates with a discovery of the motive. And I think it's going to absolutely shock you to find out what took place here. So that's what we're going to cover today, coming up next on The Michael Loftus Show. So I want to remind you at the outset, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you appreciate the content of this channel. I would really appreciate your support, and make sure to hit the like button too. Initial reports came out saying things like this. A Sisters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, sister in Zagreb, is recovering in hospital after being stabbed several times on Friday, so this last Friday. And what early reports suggest may have been a religiously motivated assault. They add Croatian police have opened a criminal investigation, and church officials confirmed the nun is stable and expected to recover. This was reported by the Catholic Herald on November 30th. The Catholic Herald continues, local media have reported that the assailant may have shouted religious slogans, including the Arabic phrase Allahu Akbar, during the attack, according to unverified eyewitness claims, they say. Catholic Herald continues, the investigation remains ongoing. Catholic leaders in Croatia have asked the faithful to pray for the sister's recovery, whilst authorities work to determine the motive of the attack. So that was the initial report that we started seeing from various news outlets like the Catholic Herald. Major plot twist, however. It was discovered who attacked her and why. Take a wild guess. Well, turns out the nun stabbed herself. She was her own attacker. What was the motive? It's pretty clear what the motive is at this point. And in another plot twist, a lot of these initial reports that reported this stabbing and said that it was due to a Muslim attacker have yet to update their reports. However, I do appreciate Catholic News Agency because they have reported the updated information. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you that report from them. I appreciate them being very candid about this and correcting this information. So they posted yesterday, I believe. Yeah, yesterday, December 2nd. Police suspect, Croatian nun, stabbed herself, falsely reported attack. So the police department themselves, they actually did confirm that she stabbed herself. In fact, I believe they have CCTV footage showing that, and that's why they're certain. And the report indicates police in Croatia's capital city of Zagreb suspect that a nun stabbed herself and then falsely reported that she had been attacked, according to a report published by the Zagreb Police Department, which I have confirmed. Here's the police report. I've looked at it in Google Translate and all that, and it is authentic. And so I have confirmed that. The department is filing a criminal complaint against the 35-year-old nun, Sister Maria Tatiana Zarno, after a 4-day investigation into the allegations. The initial incident made national headlines, with many people first speculating it was a religiously motivated attack. According to the report, Zarno told police that an unknown perpetrator approached her with a knife and stabbed her, after which she was treated at the Sisters of Charity Hospital in Zagreb for minor injuries. However, police allege their investigation confirmed that Zarno purchased the weapon herself at a store in the Zagreb area, and they have video footage of that. The police allege that their investigation determined that she inflicted the injury on herself. The report alleges that Zorno falsely reported the criminal offense with the intent of misleading the police, despite being aware that filing a police report carries a penalty. The police are filing a criminal complaint with the Municipal State Attorney's Office and the Archdiocese of Zagreb and the Episcopal Conference of Croatia, which represents the country's Catholic bishops, did not immediately respond to a quest for comment, which is concerning in and of itself, right? I think there needs to be a little bit more transparency and responses to questions about this from the church. Zorno, who belongs to the Sisters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, Croatia, and teaches religion at an elementary school in Zagreb, was hospitalized with the injuries on November 28th after she said she was stabbed in the city's neighborhood. Sisters of Charity Hospital said in a statement that Zorno entered the surgical ward around 3 p.m. with an injury inflicted by a sharp object in an abdominal wall area. The injuries were not life-threatening, and the hospital provided medical treatment and alerted the police, according to the statement. According to the police report, she was discharged on December 1st. And keep that in mind, because that's 2 days ago, right? I'll tell you why. Keep that in mind here in just a moment. The Croatian government's official X account posted that the police and health workers took all necessary measures and actions and launched an investigation. The Ministry of Science, Education, and Youth had contacted the school principal to provide a psychological crisis intervention team to assist colleagues and students. And Zagreb mayor told local media at the time that his primary focus was on Zorno's recovery, but asked police to fully investigate the incident and publish their findings as soon as possible, noting that many people in the country were upset about the news. Initial speculation on social media and in some media reports asserted that unnamed sources had claimed an attacker was a migrant who shouted Allahu Akbar during the stabbing. Not only that, they're also reporting that she was killed, that she was murdered. I'll show you that here in a moment. The police report said that the department's criminal investigation found those claims to be false and said the department fully refutes those claims. Notice, again, like the Catholic Herald said, unverified, kind of anonymous people have said that somebody shouted Allahu Akbar whenever she was allegedly killed, according to other reports, right? Amid the media speculation and aggressive discourse surrounding the incident, a Croatian priest named Father Stefan Ivan Horvat posted on Instagram that Catholics are called to grow in love for God and man and warned against calls for vengeance that he had seen. He quoted the words of Jesus Christ in John 15, "If the world hates you, realize it hated me first," basically saying that she was, killed because she, is a follower of Jesus, and the world hated Jesus and killed Jesus. And so they're, evidently Muslims are going to do that to Christians too, because they hate Jesus or something, right? That's kind of the idea of the priest. Okay. Well, I appreciate CNA for being upfront with people, telling people, yeah, this was actually a false report. She was the one actually who stabbed herself. So I appreciate that. I have noticed, however, that the Catholic Herald posted that report on November 30th. It doesn't appear that they've made any updates in 4 days now to their initial report. I do question why. I also have noticed that one of their columnists, Samantha Smith on Twitter let's see, she's a columnist with Catholic Herald, Spectator, Daily Mail, Commentator, Sky News, BBC, ITV, and others. She reported this on December 1st, the day that the nun was actually released from the hospital. She reported a Catholic nun has been stabbed to death by a migrant in Croatia. Mind you, she's alive and she was released on December 1st, not stabbed to death. But the unnamed migrant man attacked Sister Maria in the street in a religiously motivated terror attack. If she were a Jewish rabbi or a Muslim imam, her face would be plastered across every mainstream channel and on the front page of every newspaper. But she was a Catholic nun. And just like the genocide of Catholics in Nigeria or the street killings of Christians in Pakistan, the world is turning a blind eye. See, this isn't aging very well when it turns out that the nun stabbed herself. Her post is, okay, where are the headlines? She asks. An interesting question. Where are the protests? Where's the outrage? Yeah, you can say that again. Why are they silent? You could say that again. Again, this is not aging. This is aging like milk, not aging though. Yes, because it isn't fashionable to care about Christian lives. Maria deserved better. And if the rest of the world won't do anything, we must step up and speak out for Maria and every Christian like her who has lost their life for practicing their faith. We must pray for her peace and fight for her justice. Remember Sister Maria Tatiana Zorno, who's alive and well, but stabbed herself. So maybe she isn't well mentally, but you get the point. 2.6 million people viewed her post. She says correction. And we think, oh, good, she's going to correct herself. Luckily, it has been reported that she has in fact survived the attack and is recovering in a hospital. So it wasn't a correction that she stabbed herself. It was just a correction that she's not dead. No other corrections have been made on her part of Catholic Herald or many others who have reported this, despite millions of people viewing it. And you start to look at the comment section, many others are correcting her, saying actually she killed herself. And, again. Okay, so here's another one, Catholic quotes. And let's see, this one does have a community note post. But this one says, in Croatia, Sister Maria tragically lost her life after being stabbed by a migrant man, according to initial reports. Please keep her soul in your prayers. And then they got the prayer hands emoji. And then the readers added context. Sister Maria survived the attack. Police have confirmed the attack was self-inflicted. And shout out and credit to Pillar Catholic, who did report, if you click here, that it was a false report. So they also did the right thing by reporting the truth and saying, hey, actually, this was false news. I appreciate that. I respect people who will come out and say, guys, sorry, this was initially misreported. We're correcting the information. All due respect for anybody who does that. For people who don't, you have to ask a lot of questions about their reliability, right? So as you can imagine, given the fact that there isn't a lot of, those initial reports being corrected, you can imagine that the Muslim community is very upset. And we have to ask, what kind of image does this portray to Muslims when it comes to evangelism? What kind of credibility is still sustained in evangelization with Muslims when Muslims see this kind of stuff? I'll just read to you a couple posts that I came across from Muslims and how they're reacting to this. And you want to ask yourself, okay, does this help the image of the church or does it harm it maybe when it comes to like evangelism purposes and standing up for the truth and stuff like that? Here's one Muslim who says, she stabbed herself and blamed it on a Muslim. That is utterly insane. These people hate us so much that they will hurt themselves in an attempt to further marginalize us. Insane. So this is how this is making some Muslims feel. Another Muslim is posting, barely 24 hours later, police discovered that she actually stabbed herself just to implicate Muslims. She even bought the knife she used on herself and made sure the injury isn't a life-threatening one, just to implicate us. What if she had died in the process, he asks. Another Muslim, well-known Muslim apologist is saying, a Christian stabbed herself to get Muslims in trouble. This is the perfect representation of all Christian apologetics. They use arguments that destroy Christianity just to score points on Islam. Completely psychotic. So this Muslim feels like this undermines credibility of Christian apologetics. Another Muslim is quote tweeting Tommy Robinson, who posted yesterday, again, the day after she was released and after this information had come out. Tommy Robinson posted a Catholic nun stabbed in Croatia capital by a migrant shouting Allahu Akbar during the attack. Tommy didn't correct that misinformation. And so this Muslim quote tweets that. And he says, we're dealing with people who are ready to stab themselves in a report to police that someone stabbed them while shouting Allahu Akbar. The police did a great job. They thoroughly investigated the event, and it turns out she stabbed herself. Another one is saying, we've officially hit insane levels of Islamophobia when one stabs themselves just to blame it on Muslims. And then they're calling on people to correct the misinformation. Another Muslim is saying these people hate Muslims so much that they'll literally kill themselves if they think Muslims will be blamed for it, and so on. And it's just it goes on and on and on. But I think you get the point. And the point is this. Um, so a lot of Muslims feel like, okay, this undermines Christianity, Christian apologetics. This makes them feel like Christians are willing to lie and even go to this kind of extreme to malign Muslims. And they see that as discrediting in some ways Christian character, the Christian witness, Christian apologetics, as we saw from when Muslim Christian evangelization, Christianity as a whole, right? So what kind of image does this portray to non-Catholics? Is this something that is going to help build trust? Is this going to make people feel like the Catholic Church values truth and respects other people? Or does this make, non-Catholics feel like, okay, the Catholic Church is just full of liars and insane people? I think it's pretty obvious it does a lot of damage to the witness and credibility of the church when this happens. Now, a little bit of the credibility is restored whenever I see like outlets correcting the misinformation. So I appreciate those who did it, like CNA, uh, the Pillar, and a few others on Twitter. I saw them, come out and say, "Hey guys, I'm sorry. We initially reported this. Turns out that is false. In all, to be honest, just to let you know the correct information. This wasn't true. She stabbed herself." I appreciate that they did that because that helps restore a little bit of the credibility. But for all of those who are still misreporting the information days after the information has been exposed, um, it does a lot of damage to the church's credibility. And it also does a lot of damage to those persons as sources of information, as columnists, as news outlets. And, I have to say, look, I'm speaking here a little bit from personal experience where I've had so many numerous false reports made about me, maligning me, my character, my life, everything about me, my views. And a lot of it came from Catholic media, unfortunately, from Catholic clergy, from cardinals, from bishops, from priests, from laity, from apologists, from content creators, from news outlets, most of them Catholic, some of them Protestant, some of them Eastern Orthodox, but it tended to be Catholic. And I noticed when they many times would present false reports, I would go and correct some of that information because I'm not going to correct it every time because I'm not going to spend 100% of my time correcting falsehood because that would be a full-time job correcting headlines and stuff like that. But, I would correct some things here and there. And I noticed they would never report the truth and correct themselves and give an update. I noticed that they would never do that. Right. So it made me actually lose a lot of confidence in the credibility of Catholic media and some of the Catholic content creators and some of the Catholic clergy. It made me really lose confidence because I saw how they lied about me and refused to correct the information once provided with the truth. It made me lose a lot of respect for them, right? And made me really question them as sources of information. And I know that's how I felt, right? So if that's how I felt, I'm sure, and I think we're seeing from Twitter, that's how non-Catholics feel whenever they see this kind of stuff. So I think it does a lot of harm to the church and its credibility and its witness and its evangelistic purposes when this kind of stuff is immediately reported when it's convenient, but then when it's not convenient, when there's corrections to the misinformation, that stuff is just silently swept under the rug. I think this does a lot of damage. And I have to say, it's part of a broader issue that I've noticed, not only with the secular media, but also Catholic media. I noticed this under the pontificate of Pope Francis. I noticed this under the pontificate that we currently have right now with Pope Leo. A lot of misinformation about Pope Leo from Catholic outlets, a lot of misinformation from Pope Francis from Catholic outlets, and of course also from the secular news. I documented this for years. I notice the way that they work, the way that they maneuver, the way that social media profiles work, the way that people on Twitter work. I notice a lot of that, and it's frankly very, very off-putting, and it's inaccurate and in many cases dishonest. And so I think it's a really, really bad look for anybody who wants to have access to accurate information and they're coming across all of this stuff. It's not a good look for the Catholic Church, in my opinion. And I think this really, really needs to be fixed. And this particular story, I think, is a microcosm or a mini version of this larger problem that we see in Catholic media, but also in secular media itself, because I think one is a reflection of the other. Anyways, I wanted to bring this to your attention and get your thoughts on it. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this story. And if you want to stay up to date with news items like this, and also theological commentary and many, many other videos of all sorts of types, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Thank you all for watching. God bless you all.